Welcome back to SoulCast. I'm your host, Meela, and today's episode is one that I know so many of you will feel in your heart. We're diving into the world of attachment, inner child healing, and stepping into your feminine power with the incredible Stephanie Duong. She's an
Hello.
anxious attachment coach who helps high achieving women reconnect to their inherent worth. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here as well. I love what you're doing with your podcast.
Thank you so much. I love to start by grounding in your story, right? What led you to become an anxious attachment coach?
Anxious attachment is something that I struggled with my entire life since I was very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I can remember, it's something that I've struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised to be such a doer and such an achiever
Mm-hmm.
that I always did really well in school. I always did really well in my career. And I just never felt passionate about any of it. For a long time, I accepted that maybe I'm just not passionate about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like once I healed my anxious attachment, because at one point it was just like, I either heal it or my life doesn't move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw how much relief that brought to all the pain I'd been feeling my whole life, and I saw how every aspect of my life got better because of it as well. And just like witnessing and observing my own life and how everything just kind of rose once I healed it, I was like, wait a minute, this is what I'm passionate about.
Right.
I'm so obsessed with what just happened in my life. So now I'm not only passionate about continuing to heal and grow in myself, and it's something that I will do for the rest of my life. I'm also super passionate about now teaching it to other women because I feel like I have the tools to do that now.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, can you explain what anxious attachment is?
Yes. So it is an insecure attachment style characterized because there are several different insecure attachment styles. There's anxious attachment, insecure, there's disorganized. For anxious attachment, which is what I know, that is characterized by an intense fear of abandonment and a deep rooted belief that you are unlovable or unworthy of love and acceptance. And so often anxiously attached people attach very quickly to their romantic interests before they know them very well. And they cling to relationships that may or may not be right for them because it's less about the person that they're in the relationship with and more about just the need to be loved and accepted by someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. As you're saying it, I'm like, yep, that can be me. That can definitely be me. Wow. So was there a specific moment in your own healing journey, like where everything just like clicked? Like what specific moment?
The moment that everything clicked, I remember this day. So it was a breakup that kind of like
Mm-hmm.
forced me to kind of figure everything out because I was in a relationship for 3.5 years. It was a really toxic relationship, and I was really obsessed with just convincing this person who did not want to commit to me. And I spent 3.5 years working on that project. And it really just drained the life out of me. But I would not give up because I felt like if I could convince this person to choose me as much as he doesn't want to, if I can make this happen, maybe that will undo everything I believe about myself, that I'm unlovable, that someone will never accept me. So I was really, really committed to this project of getting this unwilling person to love me. And when that relationship ended, I just like had no idea how to exist without his validation. I had no idea who I was outside of this relationship. And I guess I felt like I had a choice to make in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
either stop existing or learn how to exist alone and learn how to love myself. So It was probably a year and a half where I was just like in this darkness and doing everything I possibly could. I was doing so much therapy. I was reading books. I was listening to podcasts. I was throwing everything at the wall because I was like, I have no idea where to even start with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try every single thing that I hear about and just see if it works.
Yeah.
And I remember I was feeling hopeless and hopeless and hopeless. And one day I woke up and I was like, I think I am getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was so confounding to me because I was just like, I feel like I've definitely made progress. And I feel this spark of self-love that has never been there in my entire life. But how did I what of these 10,000 things got me here? So I spent the next several years kind of like buckling down and figuring out the path that got me here. What were the milestones I had to hit, that I had to integrate to get this self-love to start to bloom in me. And once I figured that out, first of all, I was obsessed. I was like, this is amazing. This is like the magic key that so many women need to know.
Right.
And I developed my coaching program around that. So women don't have to try 10,000 things. I feel like it's these like key things that I feel like most healing pathways kind of incorporate these things, but I feel like there's a lot of fluff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess my objective is to remove the fluff and just get right to the things that you need to know in order to have the tools you need to regulate yourself and soothe yourself and heal.
Right. That's powerful. So powerful. I would like to go into your family origin and tell us about you and your childhood and the early dynamics that create both strength and struggle.
Wow, what a great way to phrase that question. Strength and struggle. So I'm Asian American.
Mm-hmm.
My family was part of the like diaspora that resulted from the Vietnam War and the Chinese Cultural Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously already there's a lot of trauma in my immediate ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
And that childhood experience of my generation of kids who were raised in the West by parents from that part of the world, it's really interesting because in our households, love was not modeled to us in the way that society modeled it for us. So society is telling me that love should be affectionate and expressive and tender and, you know, like joyful. But in my household, in my family, first of all, my parents were dealing with their own trauma.
Right.
And they were not equipped to, you know, be aware of the trauma that I may have been experiencing.
Right.
And so in my household, love is modeled through like sacrifice. And it's kind of just this unspoken thing. Like love is never expressed in words or happiness or praise or affection. And so living in those two worlds was very confusing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I felt like, you know, maybe I don't know if I'm loved by my family because they're not showing it to me in any of the ways that I'm being told that love is shown.
Right.
So I think my upbringing therefore was very emotionally confusing, emotionally chaotic, and therefore I ended up with a severely insecure attachment style.
Mm. Wow. Can you talk about how that upbringing like shaped your relationships and your own sense of self-worth?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think I had any concept of self-worth at all until like my late 20s, early 30s. So that's a lot of my life that I didn't think anything of myself. Like not even like badly. I just thought like I don't exist unless other people are validating me or telling me
Mm.
whether I have value or not.
Right.
And I think growing up, it's because again, like my parents did not show any approval or praise toward me.
Right.
And in their defense, they were hoping that raising me solely on criticism would push me to chase achievement and accomplishment and just like better myself, which it did. But also like as a kid, you know, I just wanted them to love me and to approve of me and be happy for me. And that's not something that they knew how to do or knew that they had to. And so, yeah, I think like being raised in that culture of just like not getting any emotional or verbal approval,
Hmm.
it became something that I desperately, desperately wanted, and that I never learned how to give to myself. So in all of my romantic relationships, I was just like subconsciously trying to get my partners to give me what my parents never gave me.
Hmm.
And of course, like that led to a lot of like really toxic repeating patterns in my relationship to try to get them to fix something in me that they never broke.
Yes, it's so relatable. So, so relatable. Especially for women who grew up having to earn love or even approval, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
with that, like I'd love to hear how that awareness began to like shift things for you. Like when did you start recognizing those patterns were actually like attachment wounds?
I think I started to realize it. So in my first relationship, the
Hmm.
awareness wasn't there. I was just like, why can't you just be a better boyfriend and make me happy? And
Right.
like, you know, why? I was just like, I'm not happy and I feel like you could do more. And because my first boyfriend, he was very devoted and he tried really hard to give me what I wanted. The
Hmm.
attachment trauma showed, like, it shined through though, and it wasn't his fault. So I think like watching him do everything I asked of him. And then when it wasn't enough and I asked him for something else and he gave it to me and it wasn't enough and I asked him for something else and he gave it to me and so on and so forth, I was just like, why is it never enough? And I started to ask myself that because, I was always a relatively self-aware person and I was starting to see this pattern of just like, you know, I feel like if he gives me this, then I'll be happy. And then I'm just never happy. So I started to put two and two together in that like this anguish and this insecurity I feel is very similar to the feelings I had when I was very young
Mm.
and I wasn't getting what I needed from my parents. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And a friend of mine actually introduced me to the attachment styles. And when I read about anxious attachment, I was like, oh my God, that's me. And then, like, learning more about anxious attachment, it wasn't necessarily like I connected the dots by myself. It was learning
Hmm.
about anxious attachment on the internet and by reading books that I was just like, okay, it's all connected to my childhood.
Right. Wow. Honestly, as you were talking about just like always requesting something from your first boyfriend, you're like, oh, this isn't enough. I am currently facing that, and not just currently in this like current relationship, but just I've noticed that when I wanted something or I needed this to make me feel better or to be my source of happiness, I would always ask for, can you do this to make sure that I feel like this? And once they do that, I'm like, mm, well, thank you, but now I need you to do this because this doesn't feel, so like, where do you, like, you talk about helping women get to the root, right? Like, of their anxious attachment. Can you break that down? Like, what does that really mean?
So I feel like a lot of it has to do with inner child healing.
Hmm.
And inner child healing was a huge piece in my own healing journey. And it's a cornerstone of my program for that reason, because I feel like when you have wounds in you that you're desperate for other people to fix, that you chase like external validation, external love, external this or that,
Hmm.
and it's just not working.
Hmm.
In my experience, your inner child doesn't want that love from anyone but you. And so when you get it from any other source but yourself, it feels good for like a second, but it's not addressing the core issue. In that, like, no, like you need to be your own parent that you never had. And your inner child is crying not for your partner, not for your like anyone else's love, but your own. So when you learn to turn inward, find that hurt inner child and give her what she needs. Listen to her,
Hmm.
validate her, like really hear her. I feel like our inner child, they really want to be heard. They really want to be seen for not someone, for you to see their pain, acknowledge their pain rather than just casting it off to someone else, making it someone else's problem.
Mm.
Because, like, if you think about it, when we were kids and we needed that love and that validation, that reassurance, how would it have felt if our parent was like, oh, here, just here's this other person.
Yeah.
They'll give it to you. Don't worry. It's like, no, I want my mom. I want my dad.
Right.
Now that we're adults, like we become the parent that our inner child desperately wants to be seen by.
Wow. That 100%. 100% agree with that because when you're talking about getting to the root of the anxious attachment, right? And like what that really means, I think a lot of people don't realize that there's always a deeper root. It's always coming from somewhere, myself included. There's times where I'm like, I don't understand why I feel this way. It doesn't make sense. Like, what is wrong? Like, there's nothing wrong right now, but it feels like there is. And obviously, what I'm currently experiencing with my anxious attachment style is that I have a fear of abandonment. My dad left at a very young age. Well, I was young when my dad left. And so it really showed me that anybody can be in your life and then gone the next, and that
Absolutely.
contributed to me always being attached and always like, no, don't leave me. I'm sorry. I'll do anything and everything to make sure that you don't leave me, and
Yeah,
it's like, and that also comes from the lack of self-worth, right? Where I'm just like, okay, well, I can be left at any time and I'm not worthy of love because if this person can leave me, who's my parent, like anyone can. Like
totally.
nobody is here. And I used to view that as a strength. Like, oh, obviously I don't need anybody. Like obviously, like I will be okay if anybody leaves. But deep down, there is that fear of like, I don't want to be left alone. I want to be
Absolutely.
loved. So
Yeah.
like that inner child work is so deep and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That must
mhm,
have been so hard to go through. Like that'll create some wounding for sure. Like
right.
that'll create some trauma. You know what's ironic is I don't think I've ever met someone who deeply fears abandonment,
Mhm.
who, as a response to that fear of abandonment, doesn't abandon themselves
Mhm.
to keep other people in their lives. They will abandon their own, boundaries, their own desires, their own
Mhm.
needs in order to keep other people. And that only exacerbates the anxious attachment. That only exacerbates the pain that your inner child feels, because again, your inner child doesn't care about being abandoned or loved by anyone else but yourself,
Mhm.
and you are abandoning her to keep other people that she doesn't care as much about in
Mm.
your life. Right? So like
Yeah.
continually, like when we continue to abandon ourselves to keep external love in our lives, that only just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Mhm.
because like we continue to keep ourselves abandoned,
Yes,
and it
that
just hurts. It hurts a
it,
lot.
it really does. Like I remember when I first started to connect the dots, right, between like my adult relationships and that little girl who just wanted to feel safe and feel loved and wanted all the attention and the affection because I grew up in a household where like emotions were like weak. Like what? Like you're too emotional, Meela. You're so sensitive, Meela. And I'm just like, I just want love. Like I just want you to hold me. And um at a younger age, yes, it was like, before a certain time, but as you get older, nobody talks about the not just the inner child, but like that teenager that's in you that started to recognize and understand like, hey, I see other mother-daughter relationships that don't match mine, where
Yeah.
like that mother shows up for that daughter and mine doesn't in the ways that I would like, right? Not to say that she never did, but in the ways that I wanted and I cherish. So, what are some of the signs someone might like notice that they're operating from an anxious attachment?
I think so. Some of the telltale signs of anxious attachment are okay. So it comes from a deep sense of fear of abandonment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like a deep rooted feeling of being unlovable. So they're constantly trying to prove that to themselves through their relationships that they maybe they are lovable, but they can't tell that to themselves. They need other people to validate that. So
Mm-hmm.
the telltale symptoms of anxious attachment in a relationship would be like over functioning in that relationship, like doing so many things to make your partner's life so much easier because you're in it, doing things to make you as little of a burden as possible so that you're as easy to love as possible by
Mm-hmm.
that person, constantly worrying if things are okay between you and your partner, if there's any like micro shift in the connection that like really worries someone with anxious attachment style. um this is why a lot of the content I make about like spiraling between text messages like tends to be my
Oh,
best performing
oh.
content.
Let's talk about it, please.
Yeah, so like if your partner, God forbid, is taking a nap, right, for like 2 hours and they've stopped responding, it's just like they hate me, they're ghosting me, they're never coming back, I did something wrong, it's happening again, I'm being abandoned. And then 2 hours later, they're like, sorry, I was asleep. And you're like,
Let's talk
yeah.
about that. Like, do you think that's just an overthinking mechanism? Is it like just a need of reassurance of like, I'm still loved? Or like, is it a fear of rejection? Like, what is it? Because I experienced that too. And I
Hmm.
can say for myself, it's like, I need to know that we're okay. Like you said, I need to know that we're okay. I need to know that things
Yeah.
are good. Because, like, what did I do? Or I'll turn it to me. Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Did
Hmm.
I mess up? Did I make them angry? You know, and I know that's from my own
Yeah.
childhood, but like, let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Like,
So, because the belief is that people will abandon us, the belief is that we are not lovable, we're constantly looking for like affirmations of that belief.
mhm.
So when someone doesn't text us back for too long or for like, an hour or two or longer than usual, we're just like, I knew it. Like my belief is affirmed that they've abandoned me, that it's kind of like when you believe anything, you're constantly scanning your environment for confirmation of that belief, right? So like if
Mhm.
you believe that there are Teslas everywhere, you're going to see a lot more Teslas than the average person on the road, right?
Mhm.
Or if you believe that like, this neighborhood has a lot more white people or a lot more Asian people, you're going to like pick out all the white and Asian people and like kind of disregard everyone else. So it's confirmation bias. We
Mhm.
believe that everyone that we love will abandon us at some point. So when a period of time goes by without a text back, we're just like, I knew it. That's what I've been waiting for, is for them to abandon me. So I think
Mhm.
but then like we fear it so much that we're just like, oh my God, it's happening. And
Right.
whether or not it's true, we've like created that reality in our heads.
You know, as you say that, I'm thinking about how many of us think anxiety is just in our heads. Like, it's not just in our head. Like, it's also our heart. Like, our heart, we're looking for safety. We're looking for
Yep.
that warmth and that nurture. And when we don't have it, or when we're fearing we're losing it, that's where that anxiousness comes in. That's where our anxiety and our overthinking gets activated. And we're like, no, like, hello, you're supposed to answer my call once it rings one time. Like, you cannot miss a call of mine.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting with people who don't have this attachment, because I don't think they understand how detrimental it feels in our bodies and how much it can harm our mental well-being.
Yeah.
And some people can say that they understand, but they will never truly understand, especially if they're avoidant attachment, right? Where they're just like, I'm not dealing with that. You know, that's
Yeah.
not me. However, like, they don't understand that sense of turmoil that it brings, and we search for them for that safety, and they're really like, honey, no, that comes from you. And we're like,
Yeah.
me?
Excuse me.
I don't give
Yeah.
this to me. I need you to give it to me. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Totally.
you said something so beautiful about like healing helped you not just manifest a secure partner, right? It changed other areas of your life. I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit more. Like, what shifted when you began embodying those feminine values and everything?
Something that you just said about safety. So you would be amazed what magic can happen
Mm-hmm.
in safety. So other than attracting a secure partner, which I had never done in my life, like literally every part, other than my first boyfriend, I feel like I didn't really attract him. Like we were best friends for a while, that became a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But after that relationship ended, because I couldn't get a grip on my anxious attachment and I just like didn't want to do the work anymore. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, this relationship is so triggering to me. I need to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, when I truly entered the dating scene in New York City, the only people I was attracting were like very, other insecure attachment styles, like people who didn't want to commit for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that when I healed myself, first of all, this is what I'm so passionate about teaching women how to do, especially women in big cities who are trying to date in big cities and the dating pool is just horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
When you radiate self-love and belonging and worth, it's it's like something that people can tangibly see.
Mm-hmm.
And the men who are looking for women who have self-worth and who know their value, they come in, they become magnetized by that energy,
Mm-hmm.
and the dating pool shifts dramatically. Like suddenly, well, first of all, the emotionally unavailable men will always be there and they'll always come knocking down your door, but you can clear them out very quickly. And then the men who are serious about commitment, who want to put in effort, who want to, you know, be there for you,
Mm-hmm.
and who want to create safety with you, they're there too. It's
Mm-hmm.
just they can't see you if you're bogged down by insecurity and if you're chasing down and giving space to the emotionally unavailable men.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. Like the quality of men that start to surround you completely shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, my family, like I mentioned, they were neck deep in their own trauma.
Right.
My parents, in my culture and in our parents' generation in general, therapy is just not a thing that generation, Gen X and boomers, that is really acceptable for
Right.
people of their age group. So they're not going to know how to even start on the inner work. And a lot of them have accepted that they're just going to take these wounds with them to the grave. And this is just how life is.
Right.
And so for me, when I was able to create safety in my relationships with my parents, for the first time, they were able to kind of relax into that safety that I created
Mm-hmm.
and figure themselves out for the first time. Because when I was insecure and they were insecure and our insecurities were just butting heads all the time, trying to like make ourselves heard rather than listening to each other,
Mm-hmm.
there was no way any of us would back down long enough for any of us to heal.
Right.
But when I was able to step away, heal myself, and then approach my relationship with my family from a healed space, and I wasn't fighting back with them, I wasn't like ridiculing them for the way they spoke to me, I wasn't getting so defensive and yelling at them and like, taking everything they said so personally, they were able to be like, why did I just say that to her? Like, what? Like, or if they said something to me and I'm just like, hey, that really hurt my feelings. Like, I know that people spoke to you this way and I'm really sorry, but that really hurt my feelings. And they were just like, oh my God, like, what, yeah, why am I hurting her feeling? Why do I want to hurt her?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think that was the main thing for me that was so huge. Like, I didn't expect my relationship with my parents to get to this place until maybe 10 or 20 years later. Like, maybe this is a conversation we would have like on their deathbed, and we could like, I could send them to the afterlife with like tears and peace. But like, yeah, I wasn't intending it at all. And I just went home one Christmas in a much better place. And I interacted with my mom in a much different way. And then with my dad in a much different way. And then I just saw this shift happen in them. And so, yeah, that's a crazy side effect that I talk about a lot with my clients.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That you had mentioned something about that safety, right? And being in a space where that other person is very willing and honors, that there's growth that needs to happen, right? When you got into that space and you with this sense of safety, what did that look like to you, and how did it initially make you feel? You know what I'm asking? Like, how did attracting that secure and healthy partner? How did you respond to receiving receiving it essentially?
Um, well, because that's a really good question. I think that because it was so foreign to me, because, full disclosure, I still get triggered. I'm not like a person who never feels triggered and never feels anxious just because I'm healed. I think what healing means to me is that it no longer controls my life.
Mm,
So I do get triggered and I do lash out and I do like have these protest behaviors still, but instead of taking weeks to recover, I can regulate within a few minutes. And so my life can continue to move forward. But during the times that I felt triggered in my relationship and I have responded in like an anxious way, and my partner is just so patient. He's so understanding. He's so like willing to take the first step and hear me out and validate my emotions and put my emotions on the forefront because he's such a regulated person. He's
mhm.
so like naturally secure and regulated. He does not get triggered easily. And the first few times we got into arguments, and he immediately was just like, I'm so sorry I made you feel that way. You're right. Like,
Mm,
even though like my feelings made no sense to him, he could see my hurt very quickly.
right.
And he was so willing to help me regulate and to get me to a better place. And you ask how I felt about it at first. I was just like, is he like desperate? Like, what's wrong with him? Does he have no self-esteem? Like what? So is he just a pushover?
Mm,
Because I'm so used to having to fight so much harder to get to that space. Um, but over time, because we've been together for almost 2 years now, over time, it's something that I've learned. I used to look down on him for. Now I like appreciate and respect him so much for it. I'm just like, it takes a lot of strength to be so regulated all the time
mhm,
that you're able to hold space for my triggers and my anxiety that flares up from time to time.
mhm.
And I think having that solid foundation that he contributed so much to building, it has helped me, it has helped my journey exponentially. And that like there's so much safety in my relationship, largely because I have a very safe partner.
That's amazing. That is so inspiring. It's nice to see when a woman stops chasing and she just starts receiving. It's very magical. And I
Yeah.
love how you stated that he has the ability to hold that space for you. So how do for people like me who are very curious, like how does it work when it comes to providing space for him with your anxious attachment style?
So that took me a while to practice
Mm,
because I'm not healing my anxious attachment style because I healed it like, in my late 20s, early going into my early 30s. It's not something I had had any practice with in any of my relationships.
mhm,
So honestly, like first of all, it's really important that I learn to hold space for myself first.
mhm,
So that is a skill I needed to develop in general and that I didn't have at all. So once I learned to hold it for myself, that's step number one. So I know how to do it, even though it's just with myself, I know how to do it.
mhm,
And then honestly, I learned a lot from my partner. So watching him hold space for me, when he needs me to hold space for him, it does feel like a little bit awkward because I'm not practiced, and that's okay.
mhm.
Like I think there's no point in beating yourself up for not having a skill that you didn't develop until recently.
Right.
So it is something that I'm getting better at. It's not something I'm as good at as he is, but I definitely model my behavior after how he is able to be there for me when I need him.
Mhm,
And so it's both of those things. It's like being the parent that I've always wanted to myself,
mhm.
then learning through him how he wants me to be there for him through how he is there for me when I need him.
I love that. It's interesting because in order to hold space for someone else, like you mentioned, you have to be able to hold that space for yourself. And when you're holding that space for those other people, I don't think people realize is that when you are anxious attachment, you're worrying a lot about like what you're missing out on, what you're lacking, what you might, fear of rejection, that you're highly focused on you, not
Yep.
necessarily the other person. And that's something I deal with like on the regular basis as well, where like my person, they can hold space for me all the time. And the moment that they need space, I'm like, or like they need space held for them, I'm like, okay,
I,
like I need the space to be held for me. I don't
yeah.
know how to reciprocate this. So it's a learning curve. And I can definitely say that for myself. It's definitely a learning curve to be able to shift from that me because at some point it becomes selfish, right? We all can acknowledge that it becomes selfish, like you're worrying about you and what you need and what you want, because for one, you're not providing it for yourself, so it's lacking, and you're expecting the
Yeah.
other person to provide for you. So when it's time for them to lean on you, it nobody talks about how challenging it is for an
Yeah.
anxious attachment style to be able to hold that space for someone else when they're in a constant worry.
So I will say that obviously it's really important to learn how to hold space for someone else because we will never have truly fulfilling, healthy relationships until we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is something that I've had a lot of shame around. Like a lot of the women I speak to,
Mm-hmm.
my clients have a lot of shame around like, I shouldn't be this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my partner needs something from me and I can't give it to them. And like something small happens that I shouldn't react this way to, but I do. And I'm constantly told and being told that like I shouldn't have these feelings because like a normal person wouldn't react this way.
Mm-hmm.
So the shame that we feel, I think that it's really important to give ourselves grace
Mm-hmm.
through that because more shame is not going to help you heal,
Mm.
right? Like we heal through safety, like we've been talking about. Like we need to create safety within ourselves. And that safety comes from compassion, it comes from acceptance, and just giving ourselves as much grace as possible. Because, like, of course, you're only thinking about yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you're in survival mode.
Right.
You can't think about someone's feelings when you feel you have this feeling in your body that you are in imminent danger.
Mm.
And until this feeling is resolved, your body feels like you're being chased by a lion
Yeah.
because it's in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's perfectly okay. I mean, of course, work toward healing it,
Mm-hmm.
but accept that you feel this way for a reason and give yourself a little grace. I mean, like, for example, in the Western world, we have things like anxiety, depression,
Mm-hmm.
mental health conditions, and things of that nature because our basic needs are being taken care of. We have food, we have shelter, we have water. If we didn't have those basic needs, we wouldn't be able to focus on things like mental health, right? So, like in really third world impoverished countries, depression, mental health things, they're not really a thing because people there are just trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to get enough food, water, shelter in order to live another day.
Right.
And I think that that is related to like us not being able to hold space for other people when no one's holding space for us and we don't know how to hold space for ourselves.
Mm.
So like I think that that's too big of an expectation until you learn how to hold space for yourself. So
Absolutely.
forgive yourself for that.
Oh. Everything you're saying, I'm digesting it, and I'm like, yes, like one of the hardest things that I face is giving myself grace and also being ashamed of my responses or let alone my reactions, right? And it's just it's interesting to know that I'm not I'm not the only one, and
Not by a long shot. There's millions of
yes. So what does embodying feminine value look like on a practical everyday level for your clients?
Okay, so I talked about inner child healing, which is one cornerstone of
Mm-hmm.
like it was one of the key milestones I had to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Feminine worth was another.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a big overperformer in my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I did so much. I cooked, I cleaned, I anything that my partner had to lift a finger for, I was on it because I just wanted to make their life easier. I wanted to make myself indispensable to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that that didn't necessarily raise my value to my partner
Mm-hmm.
ever. In fact, like it made me seem like really convenient and like I didn't value my inherent worth. I had to constantly be creating worth for myself in my relationships. And then it wasn't until I realized that as women, we actually like have worth just because we're women. And
Mm-hmm.
that's feminine. Like the fact that we were born women, raised as women, under the expectations placed on women in society, conditioned in the way that women are conditioned by our society,
Mm-hmm.
we have something that men need. Or not even just men, that the world needs.
Mm-hmm.
We are soft. We are emotionally intuitive. We're wise. You know, we have this like nurturing ability to like be warm. We have this power to create.
Mm-hmm.
We have this like insight and this, like I said, this intuition that the world desperately needs in order to run
Mm-hmm.
just by being who we are. We don't have to do anything to have this power. So I think that once I learned that I provide so much to my partner just by being who I am, I provide emotional counsel to him. Men, especially, I think this applies to all women in all types of relationships, but
Mm-hmm.
especially women in relationships with men. Like my boyfriend, he simply cannot get the emotional support from his male friendships
Mm-hmm.
as he can with me, not even like an ounce of it.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I get so much emotional support from my girlfriends. You know, I get so much emotional support from conversations like this with other women
Mm-hmm.
that men simply can't get unless they have women in their lives. So once women can fully embody and accept that value that just radiates from them naturally, you could just be sitting on the couch and you are worth so much to the world. I think that allows women with anxious attachment to relax a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because like you're worth so much. You're priceless just by existing.
That's so beautiful. And I love how
It's
you stated that. I love how you stated that because um, people don't realize that just by existing, we are worthy. You know, not
yeah.
even just feminine, but everyone, but especially feminine alone, like feminine energy, like that emotional value is beautiful. And one thing that really popped up when you mentioned that was your partner. She mentioned how it was beautiful that I have all these feelings and emotions and that I am so sensitive to other individuals and that makes me attentive and that allows me to show up and I hold space and coming from her background, right? Or not her background alone, but just her past relationship, it was the opposite. And like I know I'm alarming sometimes when I come into people's life and I'm just this very like soft, emotional, sensitive individual who understands and has so much empathy when I'm not anxious, right? And so it's it's foreign to a lot of people who experience women who are this feminine and this in tune with their nurturing abilities. And it's amazing. And to be able to provide that to your partner who may not be as tapped into the emotions because it wasn't a thing for them as well. Mind you, I had to learn how to tap into my emotions because
Yeah.
I used to stuff those things like a stuffed jalapeno.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting because it took me a while to get more on the self-awareness side. Like I am just scratching the surface of understanding my attachment style where I'm like, okay, I am constantly on a lookout for a text message. It's been how many hours? And then, mind you,
Yeah.
my partner had let me know I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. If I don't answer because of this, or like whatever the case may be. And I'm like, knowing this
No, but
information was given to me, and I
yeah.
text and I call and there's no answer or response, I'm already like, what is going on?
Yep.
I demand a response. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. But like, don't they know it's an emergency? Yeah.
right, like,
Totally.
should, like, don't they know my style? Don't they know I'm feeling a certain way? Don't they know this about me? And so that's where we come in to provide that safety for ourselves so that we're not burdening them with what we're going through. And that's another thing
Yeah.
is how do we prevent um pouring and projecting our anxious attachment style on our secure or a different attachment style partner.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think it comes back to meeting. If you've never met your inner child, I would highly recommend finding an inner child visualization on YouTube, finding an inner child meditation, writing a letter to your inner child, or if you have a picture of yourself when you were like 3 to 5 years old, finding that picture and just like connecting with the you when you were that age. So, I mean, we can't do inner child work without first meeting our inner child, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of what you're saying requires inner child work.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we're feeling that panic and that fear and that just like anxiety, I think the first step is reminding ourselves it's not about what's happening. It's about how I feel. How what is happening is making me feel. And I need to address that feeling, that panic, that anxiety. It's not about the fact that she's not texting back. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the fact that, like, you don't know where she is or she's out with her friends and not you or her coworkers and you don't know what she's doing. It's about how the situation is making you feel and
Mm-hmm.
learning how to soothe that feeling. So when that happens to me, what I do is I feel the panic, I feel the anxiety, and of course I want my partner to fix it,
Right.
but go in and I find my inner child and I feel look at what she's doing. She's usually like I'm a very visual person,
Mm-hmm.
so she's usually either like on the ground like crying or she's like running around like throwing things in anger and just like screaming and just like needing to be witnessed, needing to be seen. And I go to her in my like little mind space and I'm just like, okay, talk to me. What is going on? And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I'm just sad and I just want them to like come back and I'm afraid that I'm being left and no one loves me and blah blah blah. And I just let her talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, as the adult, will just like hold her and be like, I see you. I know. Like, I love you. I'm never going to leave you. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry, I'm here. Even if what you fear is happening, even if that's happening, I will never leave you. We're going to figure it out together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it's like, let's calm down. Let's hug. Let's just sit here for a minute and don't worry. No matter what anyone does, no matter who leaves, I will never leave you. And I think that I found that over time, that is very, very comforting to me because it just like it gets me to take a breath and gets my shoulders immediately drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so like the tiny fear is still there that like, yes, this person might leave, but it's not, it no longer feels like if it happens, I will die,
Right.
you know?
Yes, because honestly, I love that you said that when it like you don't feel that like oh my God, this is the end of the world, right? I love that because there are so many times where like I look back at past like a year ago, Mila, and I'm like, I am so much better than I was a year ago because
That's
I would
cool.
have called 1,000 times and it showed up at somebody's job like not a year ago. That probably was like 6 years ago. But
Okay.
like it's very
Yeah.
toxic, very, very toxic. And I can see that growth that I went through because even now, it like even when we have conflicts, me and my partner, we have conflicts, I'm like, I can sense that there's something wrong with me or something happening, right? Where I'm like, okay, I'm triggered and I'm not triggered by you, but something's activated within me that it is causing me to panic. It's causing me to
Yeah.
worry. And what do I do? And I'm in that process right now still where it's like my body's getting extremely activated and I don't know where to start, right? Where it's like, okay, I know there's something wrong. I don't know how to talk to myself. I don't know how to say, hey, Meela, like, or maybe I do, but I don't believe myself.
Mhm.
So what advice or tangible tools like that you can give to people like me or those who have similar um conflicts and trying to resolve in the moment?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned like your body is activated. That's a really important, that was really important phrasing I think you used,
Mhm.
because when we are triggered, there is a distinct mind and body separation that happens.
Mhm.
Our bodies go into panic mode. We're no longer in a space that is safe.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of the time, at least with me and a lot of the clients that I work with, our mind just flies from our body and starts to just like go crazy.
Mhm.
And this is why somatic work is talked about a lot.
Mhm.
So when you can return your mind to your body and start to like bring yourself out of like panic mode, whatever your panic response is, once you
Mhm.
can bring yourself out of that, it gets a lot easier to start to bring reason back into the picture. But if you're trying to bring reason back into the picture when your body still thinks it's going to die, it's not going to work.
Mm.
So, like, because there's no reasoning with life or death.
Right.
So, something I would recommend, some like simple grounding things in those moments when you're feeling so just like your body's about to like panic and go into survival mode. Breath work is really easy to do. Like there's something called box breathing. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
So box breathing, so like 4 counts in, hold 4 counts, 4 counts out, do like 5 of those,
Mhm.
and you'll feel your heart rate start to slow down.
Mhm.
Another somatic exercise that really helped me back when I was learning about somatic stuff was just like wherever you are, feel the soles of your feet against whatever the soles of your feet are against. So if they're
Mhm.
on the ground, really focus on the feeling of the soles of your feet against the ground and just clear your mind of everything but the feeling of your feet on the ground. And then you'll start to feel like everything just starts to like the visualization I get, because again, I'm very visual, it's
Mhm.
just like a bunch of dust in the water, and you'll start to feel the dust just start to settle to the
Mm.
ground. And again, like it's not going to fix the problem, but it gives you space to start to reintroduce reason into
Mhm.
what's happening rather than like, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die.
Right.
So that's a really interesting one. And for me, when my thoughts are uncontrollable and when they're spiraling, what has really helped me is just like getting the thoughts on paper. So I love journaling.
Mhm.
And journaling has helped me so much because I find that once the thoughts are out of my brain onto paper, I can start to see them for what they are.
Mhm.
But if you're just allowing them to swirl and go in whatever direction they please and grow and multiply in all these different crazy scenarios, they're completely out of control. They've
Right.
they've taken the reins and they're going in whatever direction they want and you have no control. But when you take them and put them on paper, so they're tangible words that you wrote with a pen on paper, you can start to direct them.
Mhm.
Or at least if you can't direct them, you can start to read them back to yourself and be like, okay, this is a very anxious thought.
Right.
Like,
Like, that's a little crazy.
yeah, yeah, or you can instead of like, yeah, it's a little crazy, or like, wow, this is my inner child and this needs to be addressed. I can have
Mhm.
a conversation back with what I just wrote down. And that's something I like to do too, is like don't hold that. Write down all the crazy anxious thoughts you're feeling, all the feelings you would never say to someone else, but that
Mhm.
you're feeling them. So just write them down, read it back, and once you read it back, try to respond to that entry
Mhm.
in a way that like will bring you comfort, or like say what you need someone to say to you in
Right.
that moment. Be the adult that you need,
Mhm.
right? Like you know exactly what you need to hear, so tell it to yourself. Maybe like you that's not exactly who you want to hear it from, but
Right.
it still helps. It still helps to hear the words that you need.
Absolutely. And I love that you said you brought up somatic work and journaling. Journaling is something that I'm starting to get myself back into. I feel like I journal a
Mhm.
lot. I have like 7 different journals. So ridiculous because I forget.
Yeah, I think my journal collection's like out of control.
It's,
I have like so many journals. I've written in maybe a quarter of all of them.
yeah. And then you get a new one. You're like, oh, this one's pretty. This is my new journal. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, here we go again. Um,
Yeah.
but I want to go back to somatic because I am a dancer. And so I know for me and my body how I get triggered and activated. I have to physically release it from myself. So there are times, like what I want people to know is that there are times where journaling may not be enough. There may be times where you can't do your box breathing because you're so activated and you don't know how to control, and your nervous system is just at 100%. And one thing that I found that really did help me, which is what I do more often now, is I start walking. Like, if you don't like, I don't know, a lot of the times I'm activated at work or because I work during the day, um and there's something that happens, I'm instantly like, I gotta move. I gotta move. I gotta get this, whatever this is, out of me. I've learned that when you start to sweat it out, or you start to get your blood and your body warm, and these sensations, like, they start to bring you back to the present
Yes.
moment. And I've learned that it takes me about 10 to 15 minute walk to kind of get me like, okay, right? Like, I think I'm okay, because I get very stagnant, and um, it depends on what's triggering me, but I could either activate the fight mode, which was really old Mila,
Yep.
or the appease mode. So I went through the fight, the appeasing, and now I'm in this space where I just freeze. And I'm like, or I shut
Um,
down, or I'm just like, I I don't want to feel this. And so moving has taught me to just release it in that way. So walking, or even if it's putting on music for 5 minutes and just dancing or shaking your body and like releasing it energetically. Like, there are so many different ways. And I know that you said that journaling really did help you. Box
yeah.
breathing. Did anything else outside your visualization with the with your soles of your feet touching whatever surface it is?
Like I'm glad you bring that up, and you are so self-aware, by the way, and I love it because everyone has something as a different somatic um strategy that's going to work for them better. Like you're a dancer, so you're an athlete, so it makes sense that a more active movement will work better for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super active, to be honest, so like I like things that I can do sitting down. It's like not doing,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, if the movement works for you, it's interesting that you mentioned like shaking off the like energetically resetting.
Hmm.
I read somewhere recently that I don't know if you have a dog or if you've ever had dogs, but if something that you'll notice about dogs is when they're stressed and when they're anxious, they'll shake as if they're shaking water off of them.
Hmm.
And that's how dogs like shake off anxious energy,
Oh,
and that works for people as well. And obviously, like people don't do this because you can't just like shake in public,
right.
but like it's like a visual thing. Like if you're
Hmm.
feeling anxious and you've like started the process of getting out of it,
Hmm.
something that can finish that process is just like shaking it off.
Right.
Like, all right, that's out of me, I'm good. So I think shaking off the anxious energy is another somatic technique.
Hmm.
Um,
Or
but
some
yeah.
people like they have to yell or scream it out or talk it out.
Yes.
You know, I've noticed that I'm also one of those people too where I'll call a friend. I'm like, hey, give a second because I really need to just get this off my chest. And
Yes.
and I just start
Yes.
rambling. They're just like, okay,
Yes.
do you want advice or do you just need me to? I'm like, you know, depending on how I feel that time, it's like, oh yeah, give me advice, or no, I just needed to talk it out. Sometimes you need to talk it out. So you call a
Yeah,
friend or somebody you
absolutely.
trust, you know, or sometimes you write it out because you want to slow down your thoughts too. And you're like, okay, this is way too much. Let's just slow it down. I'm right
Yes.
slow, you know, um, so like for
I think
anyone,
that's great. Yeah.
mhm,
No, like getting the thought again, like this all goes back to getting the thoughts out of your head.
right.
Because if they're just sitting in your head, they're growing into things that,
Hmm.
they're growing out of control. So get them out, take control of them in some way, give them presence. And I'm always an advocate for calling your friend and talking it out rather than calling your ex. Because like,
Oh yeah,
or
no,
your
we don't do that
partner.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is what great female friendships are for.
Yeah.
Like, call your friend, call your girlfriend, talk it out. I love what you said about like it's a great friend who knows how to ask. Like, do you want advice or do you just want me to listen and be a sounding board for you?
Hmm.
So I love that.
Yes, I completely agree. It's interesting because you never know, like, and it's different every time, right? So you never know what you're going to need at that time, but awareness and just paying attention to yourself, like that's something that I've learned for myself that like I have to be more mindful of, like, how is this affecting me? What is it? And what do I need? Right? So like for anyone listening who feels like that's me, I'm anxious attached, or I'm tired of chasing love, like where can they start today? Like what's one first step towards healing?
First step toward healing. That's a really good question. Normally, the way that I like start working with clients is just like start to find some way to start getting to know and getting in touch with your inner child.
Hmm.
I think that's a huge place to start. I mean, that's obviously that is work that will take a while,
Hmm.
but if your inner child is not someone that you know yet, it's really important to sit down and find her
Hmm.
because that is the root. Your inner child wounds are the root of all of your anxious attachment triggers, all of the reactivity, all of the fears. Those are the fears that were instilled in you when you were a child. And they're still there. They were never addressed. They were never properly addressed or processed. So I would say to start there. Something easier to do is just to start looking into somatic exercises, starting every day with like deep breathing,
Hmm.
just to get in the habit so that when you need it, the muscle is built.
Right.
So just like getting in the practice of slowing down, taking deep breaths, even when you're not triggered, especially when you're not triggered, because we don't want the first time that we do this when we desperately need it, right?
Right.
So like I think getting in the habit of just like being connected to your body. And that way you can physically feel when your mind flies out of your body.
Right.
Because if you're not connected with your body, you don't know what's happening in that moment. But when you are, you can easily feel when something is up.
Yeah.
And like you said, like recognizing when you are triggered is so huge. And that is such growth because when we don't recognize that we're triggered, we think that our reaction and our feelings are so valid to the situation.
Hmm.
And so it's really hard to heal and it's really hard to change and grow when you feel like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely happening because she's not texting me back
Right.
and not because something happened in my childhood. Like this is a totally reasonable response for like a delayed text message,
Hmm.
right? So like getting to the point where you realize that you are being triggered versus having like a rational response.
Right. Right. You mentioned visiting and like learning or tapping into your inner child, right? Um, do you feel it's necessary to So like if they're starting to tap into the inner child and they did that say 4 years ago, right? Is it a constant revisit that you have to like it's a regular visit that you have to check in? Because I feel like that's where I sometimes fall off is where I end up um not checking in with my inner child anymore, and it's like,
Mm.
oh well, no, this happened when I was this age, and so like, oh, this happened in my past, in my experience, because this, X, Y, and Z, but it still stems from the inner child. So how often do you feel like we have to check in with our inner child?
So I feel like your inner child is someone who's always going to live inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
and she never goes away. However, the work gets less and less constant
Mm-hmm.
the more healed and the more loved she feels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel like it's constant work, constant checking in, she's constantly getting upset, you constantly have to reassure her, it's just she's not feeling loved enough. She's not feeling safe enough.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get consistent enough with like knowing when she's upset, going to her, giving her the comfort she wants when she wants it, and not like allowing the upset to grow and grow and grow. Because I feel like a real child, if she's upset and you push her off
Mm-hmm.
until later and decide not to address her in that moment, they're going to get angrier and angrier. And like the trust, you're not building trust with her that way.
Right.
But the more you do it early on, as time goes on, it she starts to slowly integrate. Or that's been my experience, at least, and the experience that I've seen with my clients and with my friends is like the more trust you build with your inner child, the less you feel the need to check in with her over time because she doesn't get upset as easily anymore.
Right.
Because like she doesn't feel constantly unsafe. Like something can happen that used to trigger you 5 years ago, and you'll start to notice like, oh, that didn't trigger me either like at all, or it didn't trigger me nearly as much because I don't necessarily feel unsafe all the time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, it's not work that you'll have to do as much your whole life.
Right.
It's work that you do now so that you can generally feel secure and at peace for the rest of your life.
That's interesting that you say that, because what came up for me was, at what point while you're in a relationship as an anxious attachment, right? At what point does it stop being a you issue and another person? Like the other person you're dealing with, right? So if does creating that relationship with your inner child mean, hey, I know what my inner child needs and wants, and I know what I need and want, so to make me feel safe and secure, right? And when it comes to, speaking to your partner or even just a friend or a work colleague about what you need, is that still advocating for your inner child? And is that you standing up for your inner child? And also, when those needs aren't met, at what point is it your responsibility or is it that other person's responsibility?
That's a really interesting question. I think when we're in a relationship with someone, of course, like we have most of the responsibility to ourselves and feeling safe and creating safety within ourselves. But of course, like this person's in a relationship with us and they carry some of that responsibility too. And we carry responsibility for them feeling safe as well. So I think that it's not 100% here or there, but there is some sort of mixture of responsibility. And it's a really delicate balance, I think, between creating safety within yourself, but also I think part of creating safety for yourself in a relationship is learning how to communicate your needs to your partner in a way that is mature, that is loving and not demanding, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think if you're with the right partner and you're communicating needs that are reasonable, like, hey, like I tend to get really anxious when I don't hear from you like every hour when you're away with your friends or something like that, or if I don't get a phone call from you once a day when you're on a multi-day trip,
Mm-hmm.
like this is what I need. It's not what everyone needs, but this is what I need to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And if your partner doesn't want to give that to you, then I do think that's a them thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that needs to be communicated about and addressed. And if your partner's not willing to work with you on that, then that's not something that I think you should just be like, well, I just need to keep working on myself because they don't want to give me what I need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I do think there's a shared responsibility. And I think everyone's needs are different
Yeah.
and that you shouldn't feel ashamed of your needs. But I think if you're addressing your needs in a way that is like unkind, that is controlling, like there's a way, I think it all comes down to how you are able to communicate them.
Mm.
Like, I think all needs are worth communicating, and you and your partner can figure out together, like, what is reasonable for them to give you and what, you may need to sort through yourself from time to time.
Beautiful, beautiful. I can already feel how like your work is changing lives. Like just by the conversation with you. So before we close,
So,
where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your 90-day program?
so I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but Instagram is where I have all of my conversations with my followers and where, like they can come to me for information about joining my one-on-one coaching. So my handle is my first and last name, Stephanie Duong Coaching.
Hmm.
And I'm on there every single day. I love Instagram. I'm having so much fun actually, like making reels and making content and trying to like connect with people. I've introduced like a comedy Saturday where I just make like a lighthearted, like inside the mind of anxious attachment series. So I don't like to take myself super seriously because like when I was anxiously attached, humor was my coping mechanism. I love to just like joke at my own expense.
Hmm.
Um, on my bio, there's also a link where we can book a one-on-one call that costs nothing just to talk more about the program and whether or not you think that it will help you
Hmm.
get to where you need to be.
That's beautiful. Um, Thank you so much for just having this conversation, Stephanie. I don't know about whoever's listening, but for me, this was tea. Like I needed it all. I'm like, wow. Like when you reached out on Instagram, I'm like, no, we're going to talk about this. It's not just me who needs to hear this. There are other women out here that need to hear this that are tuning in and tapping in and like it's so crucial because no one talks about the attachment styles. And if they do, it's always about the fearful avoidant or the avoidant or the secure. You want to be a secure attachment partner, and it's like yeah, we all want to be a secure attachment partner. This conversation was just such a mirror for me, like for so many women listening, I'm sure as well. Like here's to all
I'm
of us
so glad.
learning to love ourselves.
I'm so glad. Yeah, absolutely. And I just like I do this work because like it helped me love being a woman,
Hmm.
and it helped me freaking love and appreciate other women because I truly believe that women are magic, and what we have to offer, the love and the joy that we all have an abundant well of inside of us,
Hmm.
it like the world needs so much more of it. And when we are unable to radiate that power because we're trapped in our fear
Hmm.
and our like insecurity, we're robbing the world
Yeah.
of this magic that the world needs.
Hmm.
And it's so like to me, now that I have the tools and I feel like I can help women unclog those pathways,
Hmm.
I just feel like I want to like heal the world one woman at a time
Oh,
because the world needs us.
they do. They do. They do. They need you. They need me. They need us. They need all of us to
Yep.
unite and stand together because our power is to heal,
Yep.
right? We can
Yes.
transmute energy. We can shift anything negative to positive. We just have to do a little work. We just have to do a little work. That's all. A little love on ourselves, asking for support from other women. Like
Yep.
the ability to do it is here. And it's just again here's to all of us learning to love ourselves and especially the way we always deserve, not how we deserve, but we've always deserved it.
Yeah. And like life is so amazing on the other side. Like we all have it in us to create such amazing lives. And unlocking that potential is it's so powerful. And I know you've seen it too, like you have this amazing podcast and you like have this, you're building such an amazing life for yourself. And I want that for everyone.
Yeah,
And we're all going to get there.
we are. We all are with the support of one another. We're going to do it. We're going to get there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me on this podcast. I loved our conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for just coming on, being willing to share your knowledge, your story, your background. I will be putting your information in the episode details. So if you guys want to follow her on Instagram, I will have that down below. And please tap into her 90-day program, talk with her if you can, when you're ready, or push yourself to be ready. She is going to be such an asset, and give yourself the love you deserve by checking her out.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.